Good morning, Anthony. Anthony, can you hear me? Oh. Hello, Anthony, can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I have no sound. Bear with me for a moment.
Can you hear me or not? No. I can hear you. Can you hear me, Anthony? No.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can't hear anyone.
Oh, can't you hear me? Oh
No.
dear. No. Okay. Let me type to
This is going to be interesting. Let me see. Yeah,
let me make you host. Do you want to let me just type to you. Let me just send you a message. I can make you host.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay,
I
awesome.
can hear you now.
Okay,
Hi.
great. Hello, Anthony.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Lovely to see you. Hi, Sally. I can see you on your boat.
He's on a boat.
Good morning.
So I've made you host. Do you want to just quickly try and check that it's all working and your sound and all of that's working whilst everybody's starting to log on?
Yeah, of course. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yes, let's test it out and then we can always just go from there.
Make sure everyone sees everything.
Yep. You can see it, yes.
Okay, great.
I don't know if you want to just make it into your slideshow, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Okay, not now. Go.
Not now. It's no time for that. There we go. We got it.
Brilliant.
Okay, so we've got
Super.
a bit of time yet. Everybody's still logging on. So Anthony, I'll come back to you in a few minutes or so, and then
Of course.
I'll introduce you from there.
All right, fantastic.
Perfect.
Can't wait.
Thanks. Yeah, Anthony, I see there's still quite a few people joining, so I'm just going to give it another minute or so before I introduce you.
Okay, no problem.
I know there is a bit of load shedding here, but I'm just going to check that everybody's on. I'll come back to you now. Okie dokie. I see there are still some more people joining, but in the meantime, thank you, Anthony, for joining us all the way from London. And it's very early in the morning there. I apologize. But
No, not at all.
it's lovely to have you on board. And I see Sally, you also on board. I think you're also traveling at the moment, Sal.
I have just got back from Bushman's Kloof, and I'm in the 12 Apostles at the moment. And then I'm also getting ready to go to London as well. And Anthony is taking me on a site inspection of all the hotels, a re-site inspection of all the hotels in London again, which I'm looking forward to.
Sure, the great traveler, aren't you lucky? Wonderful. So yes, so I think Anthony, you can introduce yourself and tell us exactly what you do at Red Carnations, but we're really, really pleased to have you on board. And I think it's the synergies between Thompson's and Red Carnation, as you know, are very strong. And thank you to our agents for supporting us. So I'll hand over to you and you can go from there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Wow, what an introduction. Well, good morning, everybody. It's so lovely to join you this morning. My name is Anthony Turk, and I head up sales for the UK collection. And I've been with the company for a very long time, about 18 years, and really grew with the company. My background, I came actually from an operational position, and I've worked in most of the London hotels over the 18 years that I've been with Red Carnation. So we're going to dive straight in, and here we go. So we have a saying at Red Carnation Hotels, and you might have heard this from Sally and the team in South Africa, but our guests often tell us that they arrive as guests, they leave as friends, but they certainly return as family. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have a thorough understanding as to why that is. So for today's agenda, I'm going to give you a very, there's going to be a combination of videos and slides and images and some quick facts. Of course, if you need any further detailed information, then my details will be shared, and that way you can reach out to me with any questions that you may have afterwards. But we're going to be focusing today on London, especially, and then we're going to touch on some of our other UK properties very briefly. So all in all, we should take about, I would say about half an hour to 45 minutes. I think integral to what Red Carnation is about, and some of you may have seen this the video I'm about to show on your screen, but what makes Red Carnation so deeply special is its story and the people behind it. The story began with Mr. and Mrs. Tolman. There's a wonderful story about the oyster box, actually, where Mr. Stanley Tolman proposed to Beatrice Tolman over a plate of oysters facing the oyster box. And but to tell that story, I'm inviting Vicky Tolman, daughter to Mr. and Mrs. Tolman, to give you a little bit of a story on the history of Red Carnation Hotels.
Anthony, I'm not sure if there's meant to be sound, but the sound's not playing.
Oh,
You can just share your computer sound.
apologies. For some reason,
Are you able to share your computer sound or not?
I don't see a. Oh, it should be all connected. I'm not too sure why. But what we'll do is to save time is I'll be sharing this presentation
No problem.
at the end. So the video is embedded inside, and I can share that link as well if you want.
Thank you.
Apologies for that. Technology. Right. We're going to go straight to the next part of the presentation. Why London? Well, London is best described as the gateway to Europe. I think for people who are traveling to London, oftentimes they'll want to explore the rest of Europe. But whilst you're in London, there's huge amount of things that people can enjoy and see and experience. Not least, the city has a fascinating history, a broad range of entertainment from the West End to, of course, shopping and unique experiences throughout the city. And 2023 is particularly, I mean, we've had a very interesting last 2 years. Certainly, when it comes to the history with the with the Royals, 2023 is going to be the year to really visit the capital. Um, Again, you'll receive this presentation so you can see in more detail, but throughout the year, there's also a whole host of headline events throughout the year. So whilst most people like to most people from abroad like to enjoy London during the summer, towards the festive season over Christmas, there's actually lots of different excuses to return to London throughout the year. So you've got the London Marathon, for example, in April. You've got Wimbledon in July. This year, we have the coronation of King Charles III, and then, of course, Chelsea Flower Show, and then a whole host of other events. One of the things that make the hotels really stand out is that each of our 6 London hotels are located within really close proximity to a lot of the overland and the underground connection points. From most of the hotels, you can actually walk to the London Underground tube stations. And you can see here from my table, there's quite a lot of different underground tube stations. And then, of course, if you're planning to visit the rest of the country, you've got the major overland stations, which are really pretty close. I would say tops 15 to 20 minutes by taxi, depending on the traffic. In some cases, for example, the Montague, you can actually walk if you wanted to. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes. If you were staying at the Rubens at the Palace, opposite Buckingham Palace, you could walk to Victoria Station within 5 minutes. From an airport point of view, there's lots of airports that feed into central London. Heathrow Airport, you're talking about a 45 minutes to an hour transfer to and from. For those wanting to hop over to continental Europe, there is, of course, City Airport, which is in London itself, and it's easily accessible by obviously car, but also by underground. So Red Carnation Hotels is made up of 6 London hotels when we look at London specifically, and from west to east, we pretty much have it covered. Starting with the Milestone Hotel and Residences, which is actually our London flagship. And as you can see from my little map here, you're really not far from some of the major cultural, historical, and sightseeing places that people like to enjoy. So you've got Kensington Palace right across the street from the Milestone, Japan House, which is just a block away. Then if you plan on attending various shows, at the moment you've got Cirque du Soleil, which is showing at the Royal Albert Hall, that is only a few steps away as well. Then if you move further east, the next stop would be the Edgerton House Hotel. Of course, you can't go to the Edgerton House and not visit Harrods. Of course, you can't go to Knightsbridge and visit Harvey Nichols, for example, but you also have a number of other cultural institutions like the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Natural History Museum, and then there's all the wonderful sort of back streets and little quarters with its independent shops and individual, little cafes and boutiques and things that are weaved within the streets of London between the major streets like Old Brompton Road here that you can see there and Queen's Gate. So there's lots to see. Then as we move further towards the center of London, we have, of course, Buckingham Palace, which is our famous neighbor to the Rubens at the Palace. Rubens at the Palace, and I'll go into a little bit more detail further into the presentation, but it is our largest London hotel. And one thing, before I continue, one thing to also note, with so many choices of hotels in London, I think the last count, there's over 2,000 hotels across the capital. Red Carnation Hotels have created these individual landmark hotels that really encapsulate the very best of where they're situated. They have a very deep connection with the local areas, with all the nuances and the personalities that each area of London brings. So when you're at the Milestone in Kensington, you really get a sense of what it must have been like to live in a grand mansion house opposite Kensington Palace. When you're staying at the Edgerton House Hotel, it is like living in a elegant townhouse in Knightsbridge, probably one of the most prestigious addresses in central London. Going back to the Rubens at the Palace, of course, because of its close proximity to Buckingham Palace, it has a very strong royal theme that permeates throughout the entire building through its design and decor, and certainly through its art collection throughout the hotels. Directly above the Rubens at the Palace, you have Hotel 41, which is its own hotel, and it is a really unique resident-only hotel that is the only hotel that follows in this a black and white aesthetic, whereas the rest of the collection are very much individually styled, decorated rooms, each with their own personalities. The Hotel 41 is something a little bit more. It is a very unique experience. featuring only 30 rooms. North from Buckingham Palace, across Green Park, which, for example, if you have guests who are avid joggers, Green Park is brilliant because it's just there and it's a huge space for people to go and enjoy. But there you have the Chesterfield Mayfair, which was London's first hotel for Red Carnation Hotels when the Tomans first moved to the capital. The Chesterfield Mayfair is situated right from close to Berkeley Square. And from there, you're steps away from Piccadilly, Piccadilly Circus. You could actually walk towards Bond Street if you fancied visiting some of the big brands like Louis Vuitton and Cartier and the big jewelers. And then if you continue further north where you see my little double-decker bus, there you'll find yourself on Oxford Street. So it's great for shopping. It's fantastic for other cultural pursuits like visiting an exhibition at the Royal Academy of Art. One thing that's fantastic also about the historical institutions of London, a lot of them offer free free visits. So all the major exhibitions are usually free. There's some of the specialist exhibitions that are typically paid for. Um, so from the Chesterfield, we then go to our hotel in the sort of further east, which is the Montague on the Gardens. The Montague on the Gardens is located in an area that's probably lesser known to our friends overseas. It's an area called Bloomsbury. And what's fascinating about Bloomsbury is that it really sits in the very middle of where you have the West End, you've got the East End of London, you've got North London, so places like Camden that feed into it. Covent Garden is really close by. So really within a 15-minute walking radius from the doorstep of the Montague, you have the best of all worlds. So if you wanted to go shopping on Oxford Street, you're within 15 minutes walk. If you wanted to go to Covent Gardens, maybe you're catching a show at the Royal Opera House, you can be there within 15 minutes as well. The same as if you were going to catch a West End show along Shaftesbury Avenue, again, you're within 15 minutes. So it's really close by. And from our London collection and the locations where they're situated, there's no excuse to get your walking shoes out and really go and explore. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of the London properties. So we start with the Milestone Hotel, which is our flagship. It's a grade 2 listed mansion. It features under 60 guest rooms, these extraordinary suites. One thing that the Tolmans have always done with all of our hotels is they've taken these historical buildings and they've completely restored them to their former glory. And what you won't find are hotels that really are not the historical buildings that are still historical on the exterior, but have completely gone down the modern, route in the interiors. So a lot of work goes in the research and of the historical past, finding what the buildings were all about in their previous lives, and bringing those elements back into the buildings. I did have a little video, which unfortunately we can't seem to get the audio, but the video that you'll see and you can watch it afterwards shows the journey that the staff take led by Andrew Pike, who's the general manager there, who's been a general manager and working for Red Carnation for about 20 years now. But he and his team go through what they do on a daily basis in preparation to the arrival of a guest. I suppose I could actually just walk you through it verbally and talk over if that's okay. So we're going to try that actually. You can see Stephen, our doorman. He's also a long-standing member of staff. In fact, a lot of our staff members and colleagues have been long-standing members of the team. So here, first thing in the morning, they have their morning briefing with all the different department heads, and they go through their arrival list. Mr. Pike handwrites his cards. His cards go into the guest rooms prior to arrival. Then here you'll see the chefs preparing their lovely meals, of course, but they're also preparing Mr. Tolman's favorite little cake, which you'll see up there on cue, the red velvet cake, and that gets placed in the room prior to arrival. Then in preparation, the team there, as you can see, we've walked through the stables bar where Angelo was. There's always fresh flowers throughout the hotel in the guest rooms and suites. And the milestone has really cozy areas. For example, the park lounge there, where you saw that fireplace, to Chenison's, where you can enjoy a luxurious meal, and then we can organize these experiences like that afternoon tea in the park. This is the Hermes Suites, where they're preparing for an arrival. This gorgeous suite with its original ceilings, and there you have it, as on cue, our Range Rover, driven by Colin, who comes and picks you up from the airport straight into a warm welcome. Oops, sorry. Apologies, I can't seem to reach the button. Okay, right, back on track. So from the milestone, we then go to the Edgerton House. And actually, the Edgerton House is where I started my career 18 years ago as a receptionist. And this elegant townhouse is made up of 30 guest rooms, each of them individually styled. There, directly on your right, top right, you've got the drawing room, which is where most of our guests like to enjoy spending their evenings in, and during the day they'll go and enjoy afternoon tea. And then you've got these beautiful rooms that overlook the beautiful historical exteriors of the neighboring buildings, and you see the rooftop of the Victoria and Albert Museum, as well as the Natural History Museum in some cases further up. It's a great place for couples, but it's also a fantastic hotel for families that are visiting the capital, because of the way that the hotel is laid out. You do have less rooms per floor, so there's an average of about 10 to 12 rooms per floor, and some of the rooms can be interconnecting. Sometimes we have families or groups of friends who will travel with families, and they'll occupy an entire floor. So it has a very residential feel. In fact, when we talk about the Edgerton, we talk about it more like it is a private home run by an army of butlers, and it's truly a very Knightsbridge experience. So the Rubens at the Palace, we talked about that very briefly, right across the street from Buckingham Palace, which I suspect will see a hive of activity this coming May. It is an opulent five-star hotel featuring 161 guest rooms and suites, um, as well as a series of what we call royal themed rooms. You might wake up one morning with a portrait of Princess Diana looking at you, or even King Charles, rather, in your suite. The Rubens is really quite special as well from a culinary standpoint, because actually it has multiple dining destinations within the building. So you have the curry room, which brings you to explore the flavors of India from north to south with a slight South African twist. Then you have the English grill, where you might enjoy a perfect rib of beef to both Irish and Scottish smoked salmon, perfectly carved at tableside. And of course, there's also a theater kitchen. So one thing that the Rubens does have been these different dining experiences with our executive chef, um, and those have proven to be very popular. Then you have the Palace Lounge, where our guests go and enjoy their afternoon teas, and might actually choose to enjoy London's, if not the world's most expensive cup of tea, where the tea box is actually under lock and key with a big gold padlock, and it's quite an occasion to see it opened when a guest chooses that for their afternoon tea. Then you have the Leopard Lounge, which is actually a private venue, but the Leopard Bar, sorry, is a great space for smaller groups, maybe groups that are traveling together and they need a space in the evenings to enjoy a glass of champagne or one of our famous cocktails. And speaking of cocktails, you have the New York Bar, which is where our guests can enjoy light meals and snacks, generous snack trays in the evenings, cheese on toast, which is also featured in our South African hotels and our bars, and an amazing extensive range of cocktails. From a design point of view, the Rubens at the Palace has the largest, or one of the largest living walls, featuring over 2,000 species of flora. And you've got rooms and suites that really have that strong connection with the palace, with the royal theme. So expect very rich fabrics and beautiful one-off antiques to lavish suites or poster beds, for example. So really giving you that real royal theme. At the base of the Rubens, I forgot to mention, but you have B Bar. B Bar is our South African themed restaurant and cocktail bar. So for more casual dining, it's a great place to be. So directly above, we have Hotel 41, which is, as I mentioned earlier, a residents-only hotel, and actually a five-star Forbes recognized hotel. And it has the atmosphere of a private members club. So as you enter the main entrance, you're greeted by name instantly, because we would have known of your arrival in advance. Then a member of the team greets you downstairs and escorts you up to our executive lounge. And the executive lounge is really the heart of the hotel. The hotel only features 30 guest rooms where you'll expect 2 members of staff to every single guest. And we have a saying there that basically anything you want, anytime, whatever it may be, it's we will make it happen. In fact, in your room or your suite, if you look at your telephone, there's only one button and it says just above the button, it says anything, anytime. Private to the guests of Hotel 41 is a rooftop bar and also a small private cinema, which we also use as a private dining room. Really practical as well for families who want to have, a quiet space. Maybe they have small children. Maybe they just want to have a private space all to themselves over breakfast or maybe lunch. And again, I embedded lots of different videos, but I'll walk you through it. This is what I mean about Hotel 41. It's black and white, rich mahoganies. Here you saw briefly our master suite, which actually has a big glass ceiling, and it's a sense of elegance and it's cozy. And you just saw one of our colleagues bring over the champagne trolley. So when you check in at Hotel 41, we don't ask you in the first instance to present your credit card. No, the first thing we ask you after you sat down is which choice of champagne would you like as you check in? And that's where the trolley comes in. And then throughout the day, you have a range of different snacks. There's an honesty bar with a broad range of different liqueurs, wines, champagnes, um, and other beverages. And then in the evenings, there's a generous display of different dishes, usually a hot dish and a cold dish and some salads, cold meats. And we serve canapes and croque monsieurs together with your pre-dinner drink before you head out. And if you come back in an evening and you're feeling a little bit peckish, there's always something from what we call plunder the pantry that is available, or we can organize a little midnight feast in your room or suite. Nothing is too much trouble. So now we head across Green Park to the Chesterfield Mayfair. Chesterfield Mayfair is where I spent 6 years of my career. It's a place that is really quite special to me as well. It is located in possibly London's smartest address, known for its private members clubs, known for its private casinos. Also, you have a plethora of fine Michelin star dining that are just on your doorstep. So it has a lot to offer. There are 107 guest rooms and suites. They, of course, do afternoon tea, but they don't just do any old afternoon tea. They do a traditional sweet shop themed afternoon tea, which is quite a popular concept in the Mayfair society, especially with young children or those that are young at heart, like me. Although I must say, thankfully, I don't have a sweet tooth. So, but afternoon tea there is really something quite delightful. And here you have an image of the conservatory where afternoon tea is served, beautifully lit. The hotel itself also has a feel and ambiance that's very much Mayfair. So from a grand statement lobby to meticulously designed rooms and suites. Very popular also for international weddings or people who are coming to London on their honeymoon as well. Um, so, and from there, as I mentioned earlier, you can reach all the different parts of London quite easily. So places like Oxford Street, Bond Street, Piccadilly, the Royal Academy of Arts, Fortnum and Mason's is just down the street for a little spot of shopping. It's a brilliant area to be in. Then we go into Bloomsbury, and Bloomsbury, as I mentioned earlier, is where London connects, where the financial district meets the West End, where Covent Garden meets the Oxford Street. So it's a place, especially for those who enjoy walking around London. It's a place where you can walk around easily. You have the iconic British Museum, which is right next door, where we share a wonderful partnership with and have access to fantastic tickets. And that's the same to say about the other hotels as well. So I forgot to mention earlier, each of the hotels have a special cultural partner within close proximity. So for the Egerton House, it's the Victoria and Albert Museum. For Rubens at the Palace, it's the Queen's Gallery. For the Milestone Hotel, it's the Royal Albert Hall, and for the Montague, it's the British Museum. The hotel also features outdoor spaces. It's a very tranquil space to be on its terraces after a day of sightseeing, where you might enjoy a meal or a cocktail, jazz in the evenings in the Leopard Bar, and rooms that are, very much befitting of Bloomsbury. So the building itself is of the Regency period. Bloomsbury itself has a very rich literary heritage. So luminaries like Victoria, Virginia Woolf, for instance, wrote from Bloomsbury, wrote about Bloomsbury, and actually has a suite in the hotel named after her. But it's a hotel that feels a little bit more like a country house hotel that you might find outside of London that has been positioned in London's most vibrant areas. But what's also interesting, what's also really quite a unique selling point is that a big portion, about 50% of the hotel faces the private gardens of the Duke and Duchess of Bedford. And those gardens are lined with neighboring townhouses. So they actually act as almost like a sound barrier from the city noise. We're really fortunate, actually, even though all of our hotels are in central locations, aside from the fact that our windows have double, triple glazing, because of where they're situated, usually in quiet residential streets, noise is often not even an issue. It's very quiet, very peaceful. So at the end of a busy day exploring the capital, you can always come back to a very tranquil retreat, regardless of which of our hotels you choose. But London isn't just the beginning to your Red Carnation adventure, because beyond London, there's a number of places that you can visit. And I often encourage people to come to London, enjoy London, and then perhaps take the train down to Dorset, for example, where you will enjoy Summer Lodge, our country house hotel there and from in Dorset, you can get there within 3 hours. In fact, it's 2 hours and a little bit, to the most picturesque little, very British countryside little train station where we pick you up in the Range Rover and you drive through the winding country lanes to Summer Lodge, where you'll find an amazing spa, cottages. It's a house that was built by the author Thomas Hardy. So again, rich in history and a beautiful little village with a gorgeous country pub called the Acorn Inn, which is also part of our collection, which also has 10 guest rooms. Then new to this year, under 5 hours, you can take the train up from King's Cross up to Edinburgh, where you'll find our newest hotel, which is still in development, but we hope to open it later this year. And that will be 100 Princess Street. So if you choose to go by plane, you can see from my slide it takes under 2 hours. And we can't wait to open it. It's going to be a hotel similar to Hotel 41 back in London, but different. It'll encapsulate and embrace all the wonderful things about Edinburgh, the Scottish capital, and it'll be themed based on the travels and adventures of the great Scottish explorers like David Livingstone, for example. Then I think most people abroad don't really know about the Channel Islands, and they really are missing out because the Channel Islands is a place that really offers so much for our guests, from outdoorsy type of pursuits to you're on an island, so I'm talking about Guernsey, to culinary pursuits, historical pursuits. It's it's an island that's really rich with activities and things to do. It's also where we established the very first 5-star hotel on the island called the Old Government House. There we have 2 hotels, the Old Government House and its sister hotel, the Duke of Richmond, which are about 4 minutes walk away from one another. And then, of course, you have Ashford Castle. And by plane from London to its nearest airport, which is Cong in County Mayo, you've got, this epic Irish estate, renowned throughout the world with a strong legacy. It was the home to the Guinness family at one point, and it's really the jewel of Red Carnation Hotels. Also on the estate, you'll find the lodge at Ashford Castle, which shares a beautiful, same breathtaking view over Lake Corrib, and a wonderful option for our guests. And then, if that wasn't enough, we have another TTC company brand. In fact, our twin, as I like to call them, Uniworld. So between London to its twin city, Paris, you can be there within just under 4 hours, and you could be hopping on board the SS Joie de Vivre, which is one of their super ships along the River Seine, and it starts from Paris on most of its itineraries. So in picture form, you've got Dorset, where you have Summer Lodge with its 28 guest rooms and beautiful cottages deep in the Dorset countryside. You've got 100 Princess Street, which will be opening later this year. In fact, we're opening for reservations in February now, as of today, for bookings from October onwards. The Channel Island of Guernsey, with its broad range of activities of both pampering to adventure to sports to culinary, really something for everyone. To our collection's flagship, which is Ashford Castle, with its breathtaking estates facing Lake Corrib, its grand interiors, really an extraordinary place, and certainly a destination I would recommend to do at least once in your life. And then before we close, we have UniWorld, which covers the major European rivers, and the nearest one, obviously, to London would be Paris, with the Joie de Vivre on the Seine. And if you need more information, I'm sure we can point you into the right direction. And here ends the presentation. Apologies once again about the audio situation. Not quite sure why that didn't work, but again, I'll share this presentation with you. And if you have any questions, I am delighted to answer them as best as I can.
Thank you, Anthony. That was awesome and gave us a great overview. Wow, certainly very Lani and something for everyone. So I think the locations of the properties and just the diversity of each one, they're quite different, which I think is great for our different customer ranges. I'm sure there must be some questions, although you did a great job. Does anybody have any questions for Anthony?
Wow, I didn't realize there was such a big turnout.
Yep.
Now that I can see everyone on my screen.
Yep. But you did a great job. So does nobody have any questions for Anthony?
Have any of you been to London? I know Joanne has and Angie has. I'm not sure if I can see them on the screen.
I think a few of us have been. Yes, I've certainly been. I'm sure some of you guys have been online.
And would you agree, Angela, that London is actually quite an easy city once you get your bearings and to go and explore?
Absolutely, very easy to get around. I love London. Love London. Yeah, it looks like a few.
You know what?
Yeah.
And you know what? It's also great for first timers because you know, aside from our locations, which we talked about earlier, the hotels have excellent, you know, hugely knowledgeable concierge teams who are all members to the Clé d'Or, and a lot of them have been concierge. That is their entire careers. So you know they've built strong connections throughout their careers with people, with restaurants, with even museums, and so they have a little black book of contacts that can help create, you know, a really special experience in London during their stay in London. And also within the hotels, there's a broad range of different experiences that we do in-house. So there's lots for people to do for different age groups, families, couples, friends who are traveling together as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I see someone's been to high tea at the Rubens and said what a affair that is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you might remember there's those 3 sofa seats that face the big window that face into the Royal Mews of Buckingham Palace, which is always they're the most popular seats, and they're always booked out because everyone wants to sit there, enjoy their afternoon tea, and then also maybe spot a royal or two come out from the Royal Mews.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, I can hear you extremely passionate, Anthony, and I really appreciate the early morning. Thank you, Sal, as well. We appreciate it all. And I think if there are any questions, we'll come through to you. But thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks everybody from joining today. It was a nice turnout, and I'm sure we can sell some more of your beautiful properties.
Wonderful. Sally, did you want to say anything before we close?
No, I think that was wonderful. Thanks, Anthony. So I'm based at the Oyster Box. So if you have any queries about London or you need to ask anything, although Ange and the team at Thompson's Holidays are incredibly knowledgeable. So I'm sure they'll be able to help you with all their bookings. But if there's anything I can ever do to assist in South Africa, I'm always happy to help. But thank you very much for being Red Carnation fans. We are really, really grateful always for all your support for all of our properties worldwide. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Sammy.
you. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next week. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.